Today, we are going to do a full walkthrough of all the different high-level calendars that you can use, and we're going to do it from start to finish and do a complete tutorial. So you're going to be able to know every single calendar that exists inside of HighLevel, how to activate it, and how to best use it. And we're going to share with you our tips and tricks that we've learned over the last several years to make this the most effective calendar experience for you and your customers. And if you stick around to the end, we're actually going to show you how to build your automations out so you can have appointment reminders go out to your customers and yourselves so you never miss another appointment again. Also, make sure that you click on the link below because it's going to give you a link to all of our snapshots. So if you're just starting out with HighLevel, or if you're an established user, you can use this snapshot inside of your own account to kind of help eliminate all the different things you might need to create. So without further ado, let's jump right in. So when you first come in, you're going to go over to the left-hand side. You're going to come into your dashboard. When you come into your dashboard, you're going to go over all the way to the left-hand side, go to settings, and the first thing we're going to do is we're going to integrate. Now, you have a choice here of integrating either Google or Microsoft. In our experience, Google works best, but you can also integrate Microsoft Outlook. When you come into here, if you want to sign in, all you have to do is hit the sign in with Google. You'll see it. It's going to ask you to choose an account. You're going to come in here and you're going to allow everything. It might ask you for a double authentication. When it does that, just go ahead and do that. But altogether, it's going to sign in, boom, and you know it's going to be connected. Now, if you have multiple people with multiple accounts, that's fine. Just make sure, I usually make the primary account the one that has access to like Google Analytics, Google Tag Manager, my ad account, and that's the one I make sure that's really involved, or my master calendar, whichever is easier for you to like kind of put together there. And then once you have it, you can make it primary if that's going to be your main calendar. If not, if like you're setting this up for an individual or for yourself, you're just going to leave that and you're not going to make it primary. You're going to only have one primary account. Now, if you have staff members, they're going to have to follow these same exact steps because each person is going to have to go into their particular profile. They're going to have to come in and connect their personal calendar. Now that my calendar is connected, my first step is done. And I'm going to go over to the left-hand side and I'm going to come right over here under profile. Now that I'm in profile, you're going to have your name, you're going to have everything pretty much in here that you're going to need to do. So you're going to come in here and you're going to scroll all the way down. The first thing you're going to see is Zoom. When you come into Zoom, you can go ahead and connect it. Now, you're only allowed one Zoom connection per account that you have. Now, we're using FG Funnels, which we all know and love is the one that we prefer to use. When you come in here, you hit connect, and it's going to automatically connect you to Zoom. Now, as you can see, it's going to come in here. It's going to ask you to sign in. I keep this Zoom account specifically that I have connected to another one. So I'm going to make sure that I leave this out, but this is what you would want to do if you wanted to connect your Zoom. Now, for Outlook Calendar, for all the people that are using Outlook instead of Microsoft, you can connect your Outlook Calendar directly in here. You would hit connect and it would automatically go through the same process we did when we were setting up Google. Now, one of the most important parts that happens throughout this entire process and causes the most heartache and issues is that people do not sync their calendars. When you first come in here, this will be yellow. It won't be synced. The first step after you connect everything, you go to integrations and you do your Zoom and you have all this connected, is you have to go to the primary calendar area and you have to hit edit. When you hit edit, it's going to ask you, okay, well, which calendar do you want to sync? You go ahead and select a calendar. You come in here and then you select the calendar that it's reading off of. Now, the primary calendar means it's going to be the calendar that checks against other conflicts. And you're going to go ahead and hit save. Once you hit save, it's going to go into sync, and you know it's synced because this will no longer be yellow and it's going to have your main calendar listed here. Now, aside from making sure that you're synced here, is that the next thing you want to do is checking for conflicts. Now, here's where you can get other calendars to feed into this calendar. Now, the way this process works, I want to make sure I'm very clear. Your Google Calendar can have other calendars feed into it to check against for conflicts. Now, you're not going to do this here. You're going to do this on your Google Calendar. There's a million videos on how to do it and how to get other calendars to feed into your main calendar. So, for instance, I have a personal family calendar that my wife manages. She takes all those calendar events and feeds it directly into my business calendar so I don't miss any family time or any things that are going on with the family. Now, I do that on the Google side. And what's cool is once I come over here and I hit edit, it's going to give me a list of all the calendars that I want to check against conflicts for. So what that means is if I have a professional calendar out there and I select, let's say, my family calendar to check against that calendar, it will automatically block out the times that I have with those other calendars. Now, this is important if you're running multiple businesses or if you want to really make sure that you're not missing appointments or whatever it is. but you have to do this on the Google side. And if you have Outlook, you would have to do this on the Outlook side, the Microsoft Outlook side. So just super important for you guys to do. And if you're like, well, I don't see a calendar that I got to check against, then you got to go into your Google Calendar and you got to make sure your calendar there is feeding into your professional calendar so it can show up here. If it doesn't show up here, that means it's not feeding into that calendar. All right. So that pretty much takes care of this whole, probably the most important part of the feeding and why is my calendar not showing up events and so forth and so on. And let me be clear, there are going to be times where the calendar just unsyncs. It happens in all the different programs that you can leverage, Acuity, Schedule Once, all these different things that we've used in the past. It happens to all of them. When that happens, you go back to your integrations on the left-hand side. Inside of here, you disconnect it by hitting that green connect button. Okay. And then you reconnect it again just by signing into Google. And then once that's done, you come back into your profile, and inside your profile, you have to go to the resyncing options again. All right, now that that's done, what we're gonna do is we're gonna set our hours of availability, right? So first and foremost, if I connected Zoom, what I'm gonna come over here is I'm gonna select my Zoom account. And if you haven't done so already, it's gonna prompt you to do it again. If you want to use like a meeting that is going to be consistent throughout the whole entire thing. Some people like to connect Zoom because it gives them different meetings. Just in case they want passwords or whatever else, you're going to want to do connect Zoom. If you don't want to do that and you just want one standard link for all your Zoom meetings, then you're going to go over to custom, and that's the one you're going to select. If you want Google Meet, you're going to select Google Meet. And because you've already connected Google, it will automatically pull your Google Meet credentials directly in here. All right. But for instance, if you're running and you just want the same meeting location, you would come over here, you would do your HTTPS, and you would get your Zoom link directly from Zoom. It'll be like Zoom US, and it's going to have a whole bunch of numbers like this too on it. So you'll get that directly from Zoom, and you're going to come over here and you're going to copy and paste. Now what you're going to do is you're going to set up your hours of availability for yourself inside of here, and most importantly, your time zone. Now remember, this is your time zone. So when somebody's trying to book with you personally on your particular calendar that you're assigned to, it will only show these areas and it will come out to you in their time zone. But to the customer, it's going to show their particular time zone when they're trying to book. So the available hours that you're going to do here is going to be Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, whatever. And you're going to start setting up your hours. Now notice I have hours split. So let me show how I did this just to make it super simple. All right, so make believe I work only half days, 8 a.m. to 12 p.m. I come in here and I want to change that. I can go to 5 p.m. on Mondays and I hit apply all, and notice that it changed all the times. If I wanted to schedule some time in here, like a little bit of a break, what I would do is I would move this over to 12 p.m. I would add hours. I would come over here. I would do 1 p.m. And now I gave myself a lunch break, and you're like, hey, I want this on all of them. Just hit apply all. And boom, you have it all there. I got my Zoom in, I got my time schedule in, I got my time zone in, and now I have my hours of operation. Now your core availability and stuff is done here. All right, the next thing we're gonna do is go directly to calendars, and then in calendars, we're gonna go over to our preferences, and I'm gonna show you a different place where you can set all these settings up too. So for instance, if I come over here, notice that I have Zoom, I have Google Meet, and everything already set. For this particular example, I'm using Google Meet just to make it super simple, but notice I have here. Account preferences is basically what I want to happen and what format do I want these things in, right? For instance, now we have the widget, the calendar widget, we have now different languages. You can select English, Spanish, French, whatever you want, as long as it's one of the languages that's supported. And then you have over here where the week starts on Sunday. I can have my calendar start on Monday. But for instance, I do like Sunday, and the time format is here. I can do military time here now too. And then the week starts for the view options for the customers also on Sunday, right? So I kept these mostly the same, but this is another place aside from your profile that you can set these up. Availability, guess what? You can do the same exact thing. This is your availability that you can come in. Notice that it moved everything over from where it is. If this is simpler, you can do it inside of here versus doing it inside the profile. I've just been used to doing it in the profile, so I do it there. Account availability is coming, but this is going to be basically when the whole organization is open. So if you're a very local business and you have only hours from 8 to 5 p.m. Eastern, you could set up your account availability to pretty much be it all inside of here. And then the connections goes into which calendars are connected. And again, which one of these am I pulling over? And as you can see, it's checking for conflicts in these individual ones. And then I have my Zoom, I can connect it here, and it gives me that availability too. Very important, two-way sync. In my experience over the last 3 years of using GoHighLevel, probably closer to 4 years, I never turn on two-way sync. It creates a lot of problem. Here's what two-way sync is going to do. If you, let's say, are using this for your personal and your professional, and your dentist books time with you, this will automatically create your dentist as a contact inside the system, and it will actually send email notifications and reminders, and it creates a really bad experience. So from experience, I always leave two-way sync off, and I never ever use it just because it's just like it becomes a really big complication, and it just doesn't, it creates a lot of problems. And I'm going to show you where this setting can become a little tricky. So if all of a sudden you're like, hey, I don't know how this thing got on my calendar, 9 times out of 10 it's because it was probably on another calendar. You have two-way sync connected, and it pushed the information over inside the system that created all these problems. So just make sure you're aware of that. All right, so we have that all here, and then you have your account connections as far as your local service ads and all this other stuff that you can connect here. We're not going to go into that because that's more in payments and everything else, but we are going to go and just make sure that you fully understand this. All right, so I prefer to do it inside a profile, but I want to make sure you have your understanding that you can do it here. All right, so now let's dive into calendars because there's quite a bit to cover here, and we're already pretty deep into this. Now remember, this is a full walkthrough. Just go to the calendars that you're interested in. The first calendar I'm going to go over with you is the team or the group calendars, or what we now create, the unassigned or the round robin calendar, right? That's what I'm going to go over first, because I like to tend to use those calendars better because they pull in the Zoom information, they pull in the availability that I set up on the profile. When I do the other ones, I have to preset all that all over again, and I'm really not enjoying that. And it's just not, it just doesn't work for me, right? So the first thing that I do when I come in here and create a calendar is I create a group. All right, I come over here, and let's just make believe this is, we're going to say Joe. Joe is me in this situation because we're going to create one. So this is Joe, and Joe's, it's just going to be Joe's calendars, but we're going to give Joe Smith here a little bit of a group calendar, and Joe Smith's calendars. All right, you can name it whatever it is, but this will be what people see. And then I'm going to come over here and I'm going to do JS Cal, because I want to make sure that the / is a path, that the path is going to be unique. All right, and obviously check on your spelling because apparently I don't know how to spell. Now that I created a group, okay, and you can tell that you could created a group. Here's Joe Smith, and it has all these different things in there. Now, don't worry about that just yet because I'm going to show you how we're going to do this, right? I now go in and I'm going to create my first calendar. Now, as I mentioned, when I go into create a calendar by hitting this big blue button right here, I want to go over all these. And again, we're not going to go over collective booking. It is going to come. We'll add a little add-on just to kind of go in through it. But round robin is like a team calendar. The reason why I always collect team calendars is, let's make believe I have multiple calendar options, right? I have a 15-minute coffee session, a 30-minute coffee session, a 45-minute onboarding call, or 1-hour onboarding call, and all these different types of calendars. I want to group all those calendars, and I want to make sure that people have a choice to book on any one of those calendars. You can do those both in unassigned and round robin. The reason I like round robin is, like I mentioned before, it pulls all the values that I set up on that profile. If I do unassigned booking, which are individual calendars, I have to reset that information here, which is not a big deal, but just I need to make sure that you understand that. The other thing is the round robin calendar. What if I typically, decide to bring somebody on, like a VA, they're taking appointments, or I bring on a partner? Because I've already established a round robin calendar, I can just go in there and modify the calendar, add the partner in, and without making massive adjustments to my calendars. That's why I prefer using round robin calendars for pretty much all my calendars. Now, I'm going to show you how to do both today, but I want to make sure you're fully aware, and we're going to go over each individual type of calendar. Now, we're going to select on round robin. I'm going to add a user. So here I am, and notice it pulled immediately Google Meet. Because I'm using the round robin calendar, it has that ability. Now, if I was using an unassigned calendar, it wouldn't have the ability to do that, and then I have to reset that all up when I come in here. I'm going to come in here and I'm going to name it, just, 15-minute. And then in here, I'm going to just use the same description. you can put in a full description of what the appointment's going to be all about. And again, here, I'm going to need a separate widget, right? So this will be Nuno Cal 15, all right? Something like that. Now, what's cool is you have the option of the Neo, and you're going to have the option of the Classic. Classic's a little bit more boxy. Neo is a little bit neater. I like the Neo version, but you can play around with this. It's not going to break anything if you keep going back and forth with the widget calendar. But I prefer the Neo just because it looks really good. Now, it's got the appointment title. Notice that you already have contact name. As you can see, I have one here. I just put in 15-minute. So then people know what it is. And then you can use whatever colors you have, right? So then I'm going to go ahead and hit save. When I hit save, you're going to notice that if I come over here, here's the slot duration of like how long the appointment's actually going to physically be. Here is a slot interval of like the different breaks in between. So for instance, if I had a 9 o'clock appointment, 9:30 would be the next appointment because I have a 30-minute interval slot. Now, if I change this to 15 minutes, it would be 9:15, 9:30. So if I took the 9:30 spot, the next appointment would be 10 o'clock, and then it would break again, 10:15, 10:30. Now, if I took the 9:15 spot, my next availability would be 9:45, and the whole day's broken. I usually tend to, because it kind of like, I don't like little intervals like that, so I usually match the slot to the interval just to make it super easy and less confusing. Buffer between appointments, this will also break that if you decide to put 10 or 15 minutes or 30. So if you are going to do a buffer duration between, I usually keep everything pretty synced. So if I was going to do like a little buffer, like a little break in between, I would do 30 minutes. But if your time is limited like mine, or you're very protective of your time, I don't keep any buffers in there. I just want to keep things going until I have no available spots there. Now, appointments per user is going to be usually 1. Now, if you have 2 people on the calendar, and let's believe I book at 9 and you book at 9, it still has 2 slots open, but it's still 1 per person. So I usually leave that at 1. The only time I've ever seen multiple slots used per person is when you're working in a chiropractor's office, and usually they like to load up all the offices, so I'll do like 3 or 4 in here. And appointments per day is how many appointments you want. Now, if you're like confused about all the different things that are going on here, you can always select a little question mark and hover over it, and it says maximum number of appointments permitted per day. Right now, I don't want to limit my appointments per day. I just don't. So I'll just keep it going. But if you wanted to, let's make believe you had the full day open, but you really only want to take 6 appointments, you would put 6 here, and then that would be it. Scheduling, minimum scheduling notice. My average is usually I need to know 6 hours before. Some people like a full day, so you would do 24 hours. But remember, if it's 24 hours and you're already on the day before, it won't let you book the next day. So if you're going to do that, just be aware that that's going to work against you sometimes if you're doing it that way. The date range is how far out do you want the calendars to be? Again, huge place where a lot of people make mistakes. They'll put like 1 day out, and that means that it'll only show the next day available, and that's it. It won't show any other days. Now, if you put 5 days, it's only going to show the next 5 days, and it's not going to show any days after that. So you have to make sure that these 2 things are correct, because if you start seeing that things are not showing and your calendars are synced, 9 times out of 10, it's usually these 2 are the biggest culprits, because people just will put the wrong days here. This is how many days out your calendar will show. So usually you want this number to be higher, 60, 90, 30 days. And then hourly notice, make sure that this says hours, not days. We had a customer just recently say, hey, why does it always show that 6 days are not available then a week after? It's because he had 6 days instead of 6 hours here, and it blocked their calendar from getting any appointments. So if you're seeing issues with this in particular, it's because you have these 2 numbers messed up, because some calendars might not be showing. The other culprit is if you go into your Google Calendar, something's blocked, and you know how people block vacations? They'll block the whole entire thing, and it'll knock out the whole entire calendar. So always make sure that there's nothing going on in your Google Calendar or in your Microsoft Calendar, and that these 2 things are set up right. All right, so then because we already set up the availability, you can do it again here. I always like to set it up in both places. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here, and if you remember, we're going to go like 12 p.m. and then add an hour, come over here, p.m., right? Hit apply all, and now it's listed on all my appointments. Now, reoccurring appointments and custom, I'm going to get back to that because that's specialized calendars that we're going to be able to work on, but I'm going to get to that in a little bit because I want to show you how to set that up. I'm going to go ahead and hit save and continue. Now, if you wanted to put in a form, you can totally put in a form that they will fill out as they're going through the calendar process. I usually tend to put my forms in here if I want to find out something about the customer, or if it's an onboarding call, this is where you would do it. Sticky contact. It's just not working the way it intended. We've incurred a lot of problems because sometimes people will put one address for one thing, another address for another thing, and it's not the address they need things sent to. So I usually leave this off. But if you want to try with it, it's basically anytime they've auto-filled something prior, it's going to push the information in here. But again, we've encountered a lot of problems, so we typically tend to leave that off. And this is after 3 years. Some people still like it and they use it and they take the risk. I do not, but just understand that that's there. If this is going to be like a paid console where people pay for your time, you would just put the amount in. You would put, you would change the description in here, and then you would go ahead and you would just put in the amount that it is, and it would show up. All right. Now the acknowledgement email, this is a recent thing. If you want to send an acknowledgement email to yourself and you want to send it to your contacts, or let's say your VA, you would put that in here, and in your automations, you would just exclude your acknowledgement email. All right. I typically like to, do it where my acknowledgement email is personalized. But for a lot of people, if you're just starting out or if you're taking a relook at your calendars, I would just literally do assigned user and contact and get that out of the way. And if you have a VA that needs to be notified, click in here and put the alert email directly in here. Now, letting a calendar auto-confirm an appointment is definitely something that I would recommend you all doing, because what you want to make sure you do is a lot of your automations are going to come from appointment confirmed. And you want this to you want GoHighLevel to basically do it, or you want the calendar to auto-confirm itself. Now, when you do this, important for you to notice, like some places, like let's say a doctor's office, do not want to confirm appointments automatically, because they need to call the person in and just say, hey, are you really coming to the appointment, so forth and so on. Now, if you're that type of business, you're going to turn this off, but that's the only time you're going to do that. You trust me, you do not want to start confirming appointments, especially as you start getting busier and busier. I allow the customer to reschedule. I also allow the customer to cancel. And if you're running a round robin, what I want to make sure I do is I want to assign contacts to their respective calendar teams each time an appointment is booked. Now, the reason this is important, if you're running multiple teams and multiple calendars and you want them to all have the username and signature of the customer, and you want them to have the username and signature of the actual person that's assigned to the calendar, that's assigned to the appointment, you need to turn that on. Now, if you're running a place where you're running leads, you want to make sure you skip assigning contact if the contact's already assigned, because the lead, you want to make sure that the leads are protected and they're not going to somebody else who's already talking to the lead. That's the only time you put skip assigning contact if they're already assigned to the user. I tend to leave that off because we don't manage leads like that here. So, but in other organizations, it might be a situation and you might want to turn that off. Here's all the additional notes. Here's a place where you can put the Facebook Pixel ID. And here's the custom code that you can do to personalize your entire calendar. All right, now for here, you can have a custom thank you message. I usually eliminate this part. And if there's a particular form submit redirect, meaning I want them going to a thank you page, like if they're doing an onboarding call, I want to do like an onboarding video, I would select this right here and I would put the link that they need to go to after they book time on the calendar. All right, if not, I'm going to do the custom thank you message and just go directly in here and hit complete. Now, my first type of calendar is done, but notice in here, I'm not grouped to anything. And it's funny because remember, I put Nuno, it should have been Joe. So I'm just going to come over here, and even though I'm pretending to be Joe, just so then this makes sense and you'll see why, Joe Smith, all right? We're just going to come over here. And notice all I did was edit. All I'm doing is edit. So that shows you that you can come back in here and edit. I can even change the person that this calendar was originally assigned to, so I don't have to keep, doing this over and over again. So I'm just going to go ahead, save. I'm going to close out. And notice that it's changed. But notice it's by itself. It's not really anywhere. So what I can do now is I come over here and I can move it into a group, and I want to move it to Joe Smith's group. And it says, please note that the legacy link would stop working once you proceed with the change. But I want that because I want the legacy link going to my team calendar instead. So I'm going to go ahead and hit select. And you notice now that Joe Smith's got his own calendar. Great. So now we did the round robin for Joe, but I want to create a different calendar. I now want to go over a reoccurring calendar. This one, I'm going to come over here to create calendar. Actually, you know what? We can actually come over here. Here's Joe. Watch this. I can come over here and duplicate Joe's calendar because my availability is going to stay the same. However, what is going to change is that on the second page, when I hit save and I go into next, this is going to be... Now, this is going to be important because this is going to be... I'm a coach. My person just bought and they went through a funnel The first page is a nice sales page, and it's basically selling my packages of coaching experiences. Now, when they buy a coaching experience, I want them to go to a specific calendar because I want them to book their sessions in a row. So then I block out the time and I do their 4 or 5 sessions or whatever it is. So for instance, if they bought the 30-minute package of my coaching, they went into my sales funnel, they selected, let's make believe I had 4 selections. They select the 15-minute, the 30-minute, the 45, and the 50. Awesome, whatever. They select the 45 for 3 weeks. They click on that, they pay, and then after they pay, the thank you page redirects them to a particular calendar that's going to give them the 4 sessions, right? So we're going to do 4 sessions of Joe Smith Reocurring coaching or something like that. It would be 4 sessions with Joe or something along that ways, right? And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to do 4 sessions Joe. All right, super easy. This is the hours that it still allows to book. All right, it's still going to be 1 appointment. It's going to be 6 hours of notice. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a reoccurring appointment. This repeats weekly 4 times and skips to unavailable booking. Now let's just go over this. What does this mean? This means that it's going to allow this person to book 4 reoccurring times inside the calendar. That's going to happen. So for instance, if they see Monday and the calendar sees 4 spots available, it's going to book 4 weekly spots every other week, right? Like every week, I should say, that the person can book and they can solidify their appointment. So if I come in here, it says skip booking unavailable slots, meaning it's going to not allow you to see if the spots are not available. Continue booking, and it's all right in here. Out of 10 occurrences, if you have 6 slots available, then 6 available slots are booked and the unavailable 4 slots are skipped. If it's continue booking, it's just going to allow you to force book in there, and then book next available slot would be when you have these 4 slots all open. I'm going to put booking unavailable slots. Either or is good, but I prefer to do book next available slots, and I'm going to go ahead and hit save. And I'm going to come over here, and all of this stays the same. And then here, I can actually send them to a redirecting page to just kind of let them know how this process is going to work. All right. Now that this is done, I duplicated it. Oh. Here's 4 sessions of the reoccurring calendar. Let me show you how this works. So if I come over here, I'm just going to copy the link just for us to toy this out. I'm going to come over here, and what it's going to do is, you see all my sessions here. I'm going to come over here and I'm going to book, let's say 8 a.m. All right, I hit continue. And what it's going to do, it's going to repeat every 4. Now look, it tells you right here, 4 out of 4 occurrences will be booked. And it gives you all the date and times that are here. You see that? How cool is that? So if I go back, let's try that again. Let's see what the other sessions are going to do. So if I click in here and I go to edit, and I go down to, and you can play with this too. Like I recommend you doing this to see which one best works for you. Let's go to book next available slot. Which I think that, let's go to the skip one. All right, I'm going to come over here. I'm going to hit complete. I'm going to come over here and grab the link. All right, and I'm going to put it into a different area. I'm going to hit paste. Now, if I come in here and let's just say I want 8:30, it shows all the different 4 occurrences of the next available slot that's available. Notice that it skipped the time because that's the next available slot that I had open. All right, so this is why I prefer, if I go to edit, I prefer the skip, right? So if I come over here, book next available slot, that's the one I like to use, not the skip. So just to give you an idea of how that all works. All right, so that's your reoccurring appointment schedule. Okay, now let's just talk about if we had an event. This is a really, really big one, right? Let's make believe we had a webinar, or we had like a paid event, like a concert or a workshop or whatever it is, and I wanted only specific dates. What I'm going to come over here is I can go ahead and I'm going to do, you know what, we'll just do a new calendar. So I'm going to create a new calendar. It's going to be round robin again. I'm going to select myself. All right, here I am. And this is going to be webinar calendar. And make believe I have a webinar every month. I want you guys to think about it. All right. I come in here, copy, paste, copy, paste. Let's just put that all together in one word. Neo is what I like. And this is going to be webinar, for coaches. Okay. I'm going to do the event color, make it a little different, give it a red. I'm going to hit save and continue. And I'm going to do a custom. Now, the custom is I'm going to add a specific date, and it's only going to show this date, but I can add multiple dates. So make believe I was doing like a webinar, and I wanted 2 specific dates for that month. What I want to do is I'm going to change this date to the 22nd, 8 to 5 p.m. That'll be a long webinar. So let's do 11 a.m. to, let's say, 2 p.m. All right. And if I wanted to add another time during that day, make believe I wanted to add also at 7 p.m. to, let's say, 8 p.m. Okay. And if I wanted to add a secondary date, I come over here in the 23rd. I'm going to do the same exact thing. I would have 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. at another time. I would do 10 to 8, something like that. Guys, you get the point, right? So I can set up as many webinars in advance, so many events in advance. The whole point of it is it really acts as, the actual events of how you set it up. Now, if you come over here, this is the maximum number of slots. So make believe 100 is what you can do for this particular webinar. You can only have 100 people at a time, because let's say your Zoom is only 100 people or 500 people or whatever else. You can set appointment per slots per user, which will limit the amount of people that are able to book in there. Now, I got to be honest, I haven't really played with this quite a bit. So if you're seeing challenges in here, leave it blank. If not, put it to a specific number, but play around with this to make sure that you're able to do it. I'm going to leave it at 100, and I'm going to go ahead and hit save and continue. I want them to, I want to personalize this assigned, so I'm not going to send an acknowledgement email, so I will wait to do that. And what I can do is I can put the payment directly in here where they have to pay to attend the webinar, or if there is a payment or workshop that you're doing elsewhere, you could do it where it's a sales funnel, where it's a payment wall, meaning they got to pay something there. And once they pay, they get access to this calendar where they can book the webinar. Now that this is done, I can come over here and I can do a form submitted, where after the form submitted redirect, I would redirect them to a page where I talk about the webinar, where it's going to be, what it's going to be about, who are the guest speakers, all this other crazy stuff. I'm going to throw it all in there, and I'm going to hit complete. Now, if I come over here and I go to the webinar calendar, notice it's not on any folder, and that's cool because I don't need it to be on any folder, because then I'm going to put this on a page. We recommend that you put all calendars on a page. Warning, make sure you understand that, because using these single calendars, these permanent link calendars, one, they're ugly because they're not branded in any sort. And two, it just kind of gives you not the best look and feel to it. And if you're going to have a place where they're going to go in afterwards, or if you're following analytics, you're going to want to see where people are stopping in the process. Now, here you are, the webinar is selected. I can now select the time, hit continue, put in my name and information, and then the appointment reminders will now just take off and go for it. So that's what's really cool about it. And you can, group them into, let's say webinars. If you wanted to make a folder or create a group, you come in here, put in webinars or workshops or whatever it is, and then come over here, webinars, and then, just webinars again. And now you can create a folder and shove these into a folder if you wanted to kind of group them all up. So if I come over here and I go to webinars 2, boom, now they're in a folder. And I'm going to tell you why we do that, because that's going to be something that we do later on. So now here's the full webinars. Okay, so we did a reoccurring appointment, we did the webinar appointment. Now let's go over your actual your single calendars that you can leverage and use. That can also be used the same way. So I'm going to come over here, I'm going to create a calendar, and now I'm going to do an assigned booking. Notice it's got a little bit of a different feel, right? So you come over here, I'm just going to put, Nuno again. And this is Nuno Reg Cal. Okay. And I like the Neo version again. This is going to be a 15-minute. Okay. and then the meeting location is going to be, now notice it's not pulling any value over, right? This is what I said, the single calendars don't do that. So I have to typically write my Zoom or my Google Meet or whatever it is that I'm going to be leveraging. I'm going to come over here, zoom.us. And then for a linked calendar, I'm going to come over here and I can select Google because that's the only one I linked, right? And then it's going to give me which calendar do you want to link. I linked this one. Now remember, about the two-way sync and all that. One way is the way to go. Don't do anything else. Trust me, you're not going to enjoy it if that's the case. Just do one way. I'll do save and continue. I have to fill all this out, so it's going to be one appointment slot. You're going to have scheduling notice. I said 6 hours or 12 hours is usually the range. And the range is I want this calendar only to show 90 days out. All right, you can do the same reoccurring, the same custom we just went over, and you're going to have to input your hours. We're going to leave those the same just to kind of keep this thing going. And then same thing with the acknowledgement emails, whether or not you pay using a form, all this stays the same. The only thing that I usually check is because we're auto confirming appointments, so we don't need that. And then I hit complete. Now it's all said and done. I can also shove this calendar into a group just to make it easier, but I'll leave it out there for now. But as you can see, this is what we want to do. Now, cool things in here that you want to make sure you do. You can embed a single calendar on anything. You can embed it inside of a WordPress site, a Wix site, a Squarespace site. It doesn't matter. Any of these sites can take one of these calendars to the embed. And the way that you do it, you have two options. You can embed the group, so it's going to give you like a different, like all the different selections of all the calendars you have, or you can do it where you embed a single calendar. So for instance, if I come in here and I want to embed a single calendar, what I'll do is I'll copy the embed code because this is, see, copy embed code. This is the individual calendar. So it's going to give me a crazy looking code. And I want to do like an embed. All I have to do is copy the embed code. And then this code, you can drop it pretty much anywhere you want on any calendars whatsoever. And just to give you a brief example, let me pause and I'll show you how to do that. And I pulled up my WordPress site. And as you can see, I put inside of here, I dropped the iframe, which is a script. And again, you can do it in here. Every now and again, people will run into an issue where the height won't show directly. So all you have to do is come in here and type in height, colon, and then you're going to put in whatever it is, usually 750px will do it. But for instance, I don't need to do it now because it's responsive. But if you run into that situation, that's all you have to do. But this is basically it. You come in here, you grab a little code bar, you put it inside your WordPress site, and then you can drop it directly in here. All right, so now that that's done, you know how to embed the calendar. You can go pretty much anywhere in there. Let's talk about the group, what it looks like for team calendars or the group settings of the calendars. So if I go into groups, and let's say I go to units of hours, notice I have 3 calendars, and I want to grab it where people can actually select which ones they want. All I have to do is come over here and grab the permanent link or the embed code if you're going to embed it. Come over here and paste, and watch the way it selects it now. So now people have a choice of selecting any one of my calendars. So this is another thing you can do. I again recommend putting this always inside a funnel page just because it makes it for a better experience. But that's completely up to you. Just know that if you want the single calendars and you want to embed, you come over here, or you want to use this calendar in a specific link or group or whatever it is, you come in here and you go into the regular calendars and you grab the embed code right here. If you want that group feel where it has a selection of multiple calendars, you're going to come over here and you're going to use this one. And you can actually rearrange your calendars of the way they show. And then once you have that, you save it. And then you come over here and you can either, again, copy the embed code so it grabs that whole entire thing, or you can actually upload that in wherever you want on the page. Now I'm going to show you how to do it in the page here and how you're going to pull these calendars through. So you got your single calendars, you got all your availability, all the different calendars you can possibly create in here. The next thing we're going to do is actually put it on a page. Now, when you go on a page, and I'm just going to pick one of these in our favorite tool again, our favorite flavor here of high level, which is FG Funnels. And if I come in here and let's say any page, it doesn't really honestly matter. Actually, let's come back over here. Let's go to our lead funnel, right? Let's pick believe in this area right here. I'm just going to create from a blank. And what's cool is because you develop them all in here, you can pull any of the calendars in here. So I'm going to go ahead. I added a row, I added a section, I added an element, and now I'm going to do is add a calendar. when I come in here, I can use the group page to give that, you know, the option of the 3 looks, and I'll pick, let's say, Nuno's discovery call, and see, it gives me this. That's the group calendar version. All right, but I don't want that. I want the single calendar. I can come over here, and I'm going to go to my calendars, as long as I can find it. There we go. And I'm going to go in, and I'm going to pick this particular calendar. As you can, it's all set, ready to rock and roll. And then at the bottom, if I have the redirect already set in the calendar, it's going to follow that redirect, or the thank you message is just going to just appear as the people are going to go through the calendar. If I want them going to another page after they set that up, I can just hit go to next step, and I can make a thank you page directly after this. Like that, instead of creating a redirect, it will automatically go in here. Super simple process to do, but just understand that that's a choice and availability for you. It's literally that simple. We just did this on a funnel. It will follow the same exact steps if you do it on the website version of this. All right, if you come in here and you just go to any of these, and let's make believe you want to add a calendar inside your web page here, go to edit page. Same thing, you're going to add an element. Actually, we can use this one right here. Come over here, add a column, add an element, go into calendars. All right, and then inside the calendars, you're going to come over here, and again, you can do the group page or you can do the individual one. I'm going to do the individual one, and there you go. Hit save, and same thing as before. If you want this to go into a specific URL inside of your website, you're going to select the URL down here. All right, now that we have that, we're going to go into automations. All right, so now we're going to build some calendar automations, but remember, you can just download and click our snapshot, and you're going to get access to the automations that we've already created that are going to kind of like set you up and just make sure you have the right ones. Now, I already have, like, as you can see, multiple sets of this, but we're going to go over it, and we're going to build one from scratch. And then again, we have our general no-show, our general confirmation, and our general cancellations. I'm not going to go over all of these, but basically, let's just start building one from scratch. So I'm going to create a workflow. You can use a current recipe that's in here. You have the appointment confirmation and reminder. You have a reminder, a survey, and a new review request. You have a couple of ones in here that you can do. Webinar registration, confirmation, and reminders, and then the no-show template, right? So if I come over here, we're just going to do the appointment reminder and confirmation. Remember, I like to confirm my appointments. And as you can see, it gives you a pretty easy one that you can follow. I'm just going to modify a few things and just go over a couple settings. The first thing you want to do is make sure that you have allow for multiple on, because if you have a person that's going to go ahead and book multiple appointments, you want to make sure you do that. The second thing is, if you are going to be using a username and password, because remember, people are going to be signed automatically. I automatically can come in here, go to user, full name, come over here, user, email, because if I did what I did right, and I have that auto assign thing checked on the calendars that I built, this will automatically get assigned to the individual as they come through the appointment. So if I have multiple team members, that's how it gets assigned. In here, the event time is, notice that it has recurring, any, and normal. If it's going to be just their normal appointments and it's not one of the webinars and one of those other reoccurrings, I can always use normal. The appointment status is confirmed because it's going to be every time I confirm any appointment. Now, if you want a different experience, like reminder sequences, onboarding, show up sequence, whatever it is, and you want to make it a little bit different, what you want to do though is, because remember, we added the groups. This is why you also want to add groups. And now if I want to make sure that the Nuno ones all have a certain feel and style and they say certain things, I can make it where all my group calendars inside of Nuno Tavares are all going to have the same confirmation. If I don't care, and these are just general appointment reminders, meaning it's 24 hours before the appointment, 1 hour and 15 minutes, I can just leave this unchecked, and any appointment from any calendar will automatically get this, which is what I recommend. Because if you want to make it a little bit personalized, you're just going to probably do the first one to show up, and then probably put them in a sequence, like a soap opera sequence where they're getting to know you. That's a separate sequence altogether. And I would just do that based on when they book in a specific calendar and let that fire off. For general appointment reminders, just keep this super basic and just do it one appointment reminder for all calendars. Now, for webinars, that's where I tend to do a little bit different. So if I have one that all appointments are confirmed, what I want to make sure, and I'm going to start doing webinars, I want the webinars to be a little different. So I'll group this into all the Noodle calendars so they all get this particular appointment reminder sequence. I come in here, everything looks good. The only thing I make sure I change is come over here and I either put in my Zoom link that I want permanent, or if I connect to my Zoom or my Google Meet, all I have to do is do appointment and come in here and do meeting location. The only time this will not work is if you use the single calendars, the unassigned single calendars that didn't have the round robin or the group setting. If you do that, then this meeting location will not work. So if you're like, hey, I don't understand what happened, why is this not working? This is the reason why. Also, your appointment start date and time. One thing that I've also been adding is I come over here and I go to appointment and I do put in time zone, just so then they understand what time this exactly is and so forth and so on. It just makes it super easy for people to not miss appointments and everything else. And the user first name I do, again, if I'm using unassigned calendars, that's the only time none of this stuff will usually work. So you want to make sure that you're using the group calendars and you're also doing the round robin, because then you can pull the appointment meeting location. You can pull all this appointment stuff in there a lot easier, and I encounter less problems. I leave the add to Google Calendar, I leave the add to Outlook, and then I leave the cancel and reschedule. All right, and then I do have the reminders and so forth and so on as I go on. Again, all these need to be changed. You're gonna come over here, you're gonna do appointment, meeting location, and then all this is squared away. Now this is a pretty easy one, right? Super easy. Come over here. I like to enable all, let's say appointments are A1, and then go from there and hit save. Now for cancel and no show, I kind of tend to use the same one. So if I go to no show, appointment status here, this time the appointment status is no show. And then here, same thing, email, look, you missed your appointment. Here's your appointment rescheduling link. The way I got this right here is I come over here, I go to appointment, and I have a rescheduling and a cancellation link right here. So that's what I use to populate that. And then I have my user first name, my user signature. And again, the first thing I do is go to settings and I allow for multiple. Now let's just talk about webinars real quick, right? Because that's where things are can get a little hairy. Now, the workshop one, the appointment is in calendar group. I want the webinars or the workshops, because now I want this to have a certain feel, like, hey, super excited that you're showing up for blah, blah, blah webinar. And if it's a particular kind of group, like make believe this webinar is just on coaching, I will group it into an actual, I'll make a calendar group. I'll call it coaching webinars. And then all the things in here, the confirmation emails, the countdown, I can then really personalize it in order to make it happen in there. And notice that both in the appointment reminder sequences, regardless of which they are, I have the cancel and the no-show. So notice that if they book again, it's removing them from the no-show reminders and the cancellation reminders as we kind of go through. And basically this is it. Again, you don't have to do any of this, because if you download the snapshot, it'll already have it for you. But they're really easy to create, because all of these have recipes that you can literally create from scratch. So if you come in here and you go to the no-show one, all right, click on that down there, hit create. And now you have when appointment is a no-show, as you can see, and then all of a sudden allow for multiple, stop on response, and rescheduling link. Again, just insert the calendar link here, but all you have to do is come in here and do custom values, appointment, rescheduling link, and then we look forward to seeing you. And then everything else afterwards, you would just modify. You would add 15 minutes, 30 minutes. Again, you can customize these as much as you want, but we're going to go into deep automations in different parts as we kind of go through. But I wanted to show you how to completely integrate this to kind of get you up and going. All right, and in the next section, we're going to go over forms and surveys, and we're going to go deep into that. So stay tuned for part 3.